Welcome to Absolutely PSG, PlayStation and Steam Gamers. My name is Benny. That is Ben, not to confuse you. I'm Benny and that's Shank. We'll go with that because I'll very quickly forget to call him Ben.
Did you forget my name?
No, I was debating calling you Shank or Ben, and I was like, I want to call you Ben, but like within 5 minutes of every show, I'm just calling you Shank again.
I know. That's why I do it. It's easier. There's too many Bens around here.
So today we're going to do a quick discussion, or maybe not quick, whatever. But we're going to be filming a couple things back to back, and one of which is a discussion we're going to talk about toxic positivity. And Shank and I are going to talk a little bit more about our day one stuff coming up soon. But Shank here likes to go through bouts where he's so positive about Destiny, I literally avoid him because he's gotten toxic about it. Now hold on. Examples of what I'm talking about so the chat knows what is going on. Apex Legends came out and they had an issue where they came out, all their bounties to go through their season pass were all 4 times harder than they were in the previous season. Community had a huge amount of backlash, yelled at them, blah, 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 and they all came out and were like, hey everyone, we didn't mean to do that. We're going to make some adjustments. Now you could lean either way with that. You could lean with, oh, they just wanted to see if people would accept them, or you could lean with, no, they legitimately made a mistake and are trying to fix it. We're in a day and age where I feel like every developer does an oopsie every couple of months, and it all seems like it would have been great for them if it panned out. Another example, before I get to my Destiny example with Shank, is recently Final Fantasy XIV made the major announcement of male Vieras, which is the male bunny character. Catch you up briefly on that. They made a bunny race in the game, only females. It was gender locked. Everyone freaked out. They surprised announcement that, hey, don't worry, guys. Males are coming out finally, and then a portion of the community had the argument of like, well, why don't you fix the females fully before you start working on another race? They were ostracized by the people who wanted male Viera, to the point of, and I don't hear much of this from the Destiny or the Apex or the other games, but like literally, if you don't think this is a great thing, just quit the game and leave. Like, that's toxic positivity. You're not allowed to have a different opinion about a situation. And then, of course, my Destiny example. They just did basically what Apex did. So I'll just use that as... We actually haven't debated it, but I will use it as an example because there's literally only, I think, 2 sentences exchanged between me and Shank here about it, where they claimed that they have unintentionally left the XP increased for 2 seasons, that it started at Beyond Light, and they just let it roll through the 2nd season by mistake, and now they've made adjustments so it's slower. Me being more of a pessimist when it comes to these live service games, looks at that as going, they decided they want to sell more season pass ranks and realized that most of us did all 100 tiers in 2 weeks. Shank looks at it as, no, that's the mistake they made and they're making adjustments. Now, Shank, your opinion on toxic positivity on this situation.
Okay, so I do agree with you that toxic positivity is an issue. But I think your definition of it is probably a little skewed, where you think anybody who says something positive about games that are doing, we'll just say naughty things, bad things.
No, I mean, you're not wrong, because that's what it boils down to.
You think anybody who says anything positive about those games while they're messing up is being toxically positive. I do agree with what you said. When people start saying, well, if you don't like it, you should just leave the game. That, to me, is the ultimate definition of toxic positivity.
Yeah. I think the Final Fantasy example is the most extreme, because that is a reason why I don't do that much in the Final Fantasy community, because there's things I disagree with, and in that community, if you disagree, get the hell out. We don't want you. Like, okay, fine, whatever. I'd rather just play my game.
Which is, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a game. You play it with whoever you want to play it with, and you can make the complaints you want to make. I don't know. I personally would come down on the side of give me male Vieira before you give me hats, because they're hats. Who cares?
And we're allowed to have different opinions. I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah, like that's perfectly fine.
But who would ever say you have to quit the game if you want male Vieira, or quit the game if you want female Vieira to be able to wear hats? Like, that to me is toxic. Like, if you can't just agree to disagree, I guess that's the thing. If you can't agree to disagree, then that's when you cross that line into being toxic, whether it's positive or negative.
I mean, I like having a lot of debates with you and other people within our community that you can find on Discord. I like having a lot of debates with them about like the pros, the cons of what Destiny's doing, the pros, the cons of what Sea of Thieves did. That's why we have these discussions, because I like to look at different opinions and we surround ourselves with people who are allowed to have different opinions. And we get heated sometimes, but I don't think you and I have ever had like oh my God, shit, don't even talk to me.
No, I mean, we get heated, but I don't ever take it personally.
Yeah.
I just know you and I agree on very little when it comes to gaming, and I accept that. That's part of our friendship. It's also why we yell at each other constantly.
Well, so taking you as a prime example and why I've avoided you for the last 2 weeks, I think, so toxic positivity is kind of a largely encompassing term. It could include a lot of things. With you in particular, and the reason why I avoid you sometimes, is you get into these modes when we're playing Destiny where everything has to be unlocked or you're not achieving maximum potential. You know?
I agree with that, but I don't agree that that's toxic positivity.
Well, when I look at my DMs and it's, did you do it yet? That's pretty toxic.
I stopped sending you those messages. You said you were getting annoyed by them. And then you text me 2 days ago and you're like, hey, Ada 1 has a War Mine cell bounty. I'm like, yeah, I know. I didn't send it to you on purpose because last time I did, you yelled at me.
I think it becomes a problem, though, because like the issues with these live service games, and I think it kind of breaks people, because the issues with the big issue, and I know I just said that 3 times, is that these games go on for so long. And so Overwatch, 4 or 5 years. Destiny, 4 or 5 years. Final Fantasy 14, who knows? It's been going on like 80 years at this point.
I think they're all at like 7 or 8 years now.
Well, 14, I think, was 2012 or something like that, like with the version that everyone's playing. But it's technically been around since like 2010 or 11. But World of Warcraft, 2005. Like, the issue with these games is it goes on so long that these developers do make mistakes. But traditionally, when these mistakes are made, such as the Apex XP thing or even the Destiny thing, when these mistakes are made, they almost always seem to lean in the direction of, this was a very profitable time period for Apex and Destiny, because if they slow down that XP, you're kind of incentivized to spend more money. You know what I mean? Like, the mistakes are never like, oopsie, we gave you guys quadruple the XP in your favor.
No, but no, actually, no. Let's discuss this then. Because we didn't get a chance to actually discuss it. But that was the mistake. The mistake was, if you read what happened.
No, they boosted it for Beyond Light and they didn't turn it off.
No, they didn't boost it for Beyond Light. You know, on the season pass.
Yeah.
One of the rewards is you get XP faster. It's an XP boost.
Right.
What happened was, from going through Season of the Hunt and Beyond Light into Season of the Chosen, that XP boost that you got from Season of the Hunt never fell off. So you were making more XP than you should have at the beginning of the season. Then it gave you the Season of the Chosen buffs. And that was basically giving you double the XP rate that you were gaining. What their decision was to say, okay, well, we're not just going to turn it off mid-Season of the Chosen once they realized what was happening. They said, okay, we'll just let it ride for Season of the Chosen, and we'll turn it off when Season of the Splicer starts.
Okay, and I agree. If that had happened legitimately in that direction, cool. My question is, why was that never expressed to the player base? Because now it feels like that's the excuse so that they can roll back the XP gain. Because Season of the Chosen, I was like 60 by this point. This season, I'm 30. Like, it's literally about
Which half. Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. What they're saying makes sense. But is it because of that, or because they decided it was a little too high and we had a few less people buying season ranks? Let's just make it a little more incentivized to buy season ranks.
I think that's a little conspiratorial.
Well, yeah, but this is also the same company that uses the loophole of, we won't give rave rewards in the Eververse, but the Steam store is okay.
The reason I'm not going to argue too much is because they did do this exact thing, and I think it was back in Curse of Osiris.
It was too fast. They slowed it down.
XP.
Yeah, and and it's things like that that made me question what they're doing. Like using, just so we don't talk entirely about Destiny, when Apex did it, when Apex accidentally made it 4 times harder to increase your battle pass levels, do you feel that that was intentional? And then they realized how bad it was and reeled it back a little? Or do you think that that was actually a mistake from the get-go?
It's a tuning issue. They need to keep people interested in their battle pass, like actually earning the battle pass by having it not cost too much XP. But I guess they also need to make money. So they're going to push that line as far as they can.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where a lot of these issues come in. I think these companies, and then the toxic positivity comes in to the people who just say, oh no, it's everything that they say it is, and it's all perfect and everything's fine. And what you just, if you're going to crap on Destiny's season pass, don't play Destiny. If you're going to crap on Apex Legends season pass, don't play Apex. And if you're going to crap on Vieira's getting hats, don't play Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Fun fact, sidebar, I actually find it funny that you're voting for male Vieiras over giving hats, because hats would affect your big cat boy character.
Wait, what?
They're doing female versions of the big cat boy before you guys can do hats.
Yeah, but I'm a Rogar? Rothgar? What's the name of them?
I thought you switched over to the big cat boys.
No. I'm a big beefy giant dude. But I don't know. I said when Shadowbringers came out that there should have been male Vieira.
Yeah, well, I agreed back then,
but
their argument did make sense. Like, hey, it takes a lot of work to do both. So everyone expects females because that's in every other game. We've never even seen a male. I got where they were coming from. I do think from the get-go they should have just had male, female, and just called it good and just said, screw it. But
yeah. Final Fantasy is weird, though, because they need to hit their 2-year marks. Like, I don't think they really like to delay a lot.
No, they don't. Yeah.
So, I mean, they kind of had to be like, okay, well, this is what we have, and this is what you get. We'll see if we can squeeze this in for the next expansion. So, I mean, I kind of get that because they've been on the same schedule for so long.
Right. So, bringing this back to our other discussion, though, the toxic pot. When do you feel? Let's remove the obvious one. The obvious toxic positivity line is the get out of my game. That's the obvious line. You and I spent like 6 months of playing games together, and all I did was complain about Destiny for those 6 months. There was that period. I know that period. We both know that period. And you kept inviting me to play, which I never understood. Like, you'd be like, let's play Destiny. And I'd get on and be like, screw this game. This game's so terrible. What am I doing?
See, so obviously there's toxic positivity, but there's also toxic negativity, which everybody knows about. The question is if you're toxically positive, do you just look at people who have valid complaints as being... I guess your perspective shifts. If you're toxically positive and I look at you and you have complaints, do I just look at you and say you're being toxically negative? And vice versa. If you're toxically negative about a game and I feel neutral about it.
What's the line for negative and positive? Let's take it to that. What's the line for both of them? Where you are, because you can have an opinion like, I dislike this, but I like that. That's fine. At what point are you toxically negative to the point where it's like, I shouldn't hang out with you? And vice versa, are you toxically positive to the point where it's like, all right, I'm done. You have the blinders on and you can't see what's going on here. You know what I mean? It goes in both ways. What's that line?
I think the line is when you can't admit that you could be wrong. I think you should be able to look at a situation and say, okay, let's go back to the XP thing in Apex and Destiny. I think you should be able to say both. You can have a decision, but you should be able to say both. Okay, so they gave us too much XP during last season, so they turned it down because it was a mistake. That could be what happened. Or it's what you said. They were losing money on their season pass ranks, so they decided to increase the amount of XP you needed.
Right.
I think if you're able to acknowledge that either one of those situations could be true, regardless of what you believe it is.
Yeah.
Then I think that's when you're kind of in a neutral position. If you're just like, no, there's no way Bungie would do that. I have no idea what you're talking about, Benny. They would never adjust the XP rates so that you can't get stuff so that you have to spend money in Eververse. That just wouldn't happen. Why would they do that? Then you're toxically positive. That's my personal opinion.
No, I think that's a good. I think that's the best way to put it, because it's hard to put a quantifiable line of like, oh, I crossed the line. You're right. If you're at a point where you can't even consider the other side of the table, like, yes, I personally think this was intentional, because I personally think they decided they could get more money out of it. This is the same season they're selling an Eververse emote out of the store for a raid that they could have easily made a reward, because they did the last chair that way. This is the same season where they're trying to milk us for money on the transmog. And all of this is going to be discussed in our season of the Splicer review. But what I'm saying is,
you could have an entire podcast just about how messed up the Eververse is right now.
And that's what I mean. This is that same season. So I lean towards this was an intentional correction, but I do acknowledge maybe it was a legit mistake. My biggest caveat with that line, though, is why didn't they say something sooner? Why did they wait until they made the attunement? People caught it, put it up on a Kotaku article, and then they're like, "Oh no, hold on, that was intentional."
You do realize that they said in a TWAB like
it was
2
a
weeks
TWAB?
ago.
Okay, but
they
either way,
did say it, but it was only 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah, they didn't say
So
middle of
they
Chosen.
didn't-
Hey guys, we messed
They
up,
should
so
have said
expect it.
Right. They should have said in the middle of Chosen, "Hey guys, XP is ridiculously fast right now because it didn't fall off last season. Do not expect this next season.
Yeah.
But enjoy this for the rest of the time that we keep it active. We're not going to take it away from you." And that has always been Bungie's issue, is that they don't communicate. And in Final Fantasy's defense, I think that's part of what they do really well, is that they communicate whenever they're doing stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps people from getting upset at Square whenever they're making changes that people don't like. Because they're like, okay, in 3 months we're doing this, expect it. We know you're not going to like it, but these are our reasons why we're doing it. And it always comes back to communication.
That's one thing I liked about the Male Vieira. They just got quiet when all that backlash came out that there was no Male Vieira until they had it ready to show. They didn't go like, all right, we hear you. We'll work on it. I mean, that was Bungie's issue with the transmog. We hear you guys want transmog. We got to figure some things out. What they meant was figure out how to monetize it. But
well, the issue is that they were like, okay, it's going to be here in a couple seasons.
Yeah.
You thought a couple seasons meant it would be here 2 seasons ago. I was like, there's no way it's going to be ready for when Beyond Light drops. So I'm guessing it'll be sometime halfway through the year, which is what ended up happening. Was I being toxically positive in the fact that I realistically guessed that Bungie was going to not have it until the winter?
Yes, you were.
So that's interesting.
You didn't even consider it could come out with Beyond Light.
Yeah, because I've been playing Bungie's game long enough to know that they monkey paw everything. I mean, it's just realistic at this point. Keep your expectations low and you'll never be disappointed.
I don't want to turn this into a Bungie discussion, because this week's podcast and the season of the Splicer review is all going to be Bungie related. So it's like,
right.
Let's take it over to the other side with the Apex thing. Let's do a game that you don't know that much about, and we can end this thought here. So, do you think that it was toxically positive for people who so Dan plays a lot of Apex Legends. So when they came out and said that they messed up the challenges and it was 4 times longer than they intended it to be and they're going to fix it, I was like, to me that just says we got caught with our hand in the cookie jar, our bad. And Dan literally looked at it like, no, they said that this was a mistake, so they're correcting it. Like, do you consider that to be toxic positive? Agree.
So
with
the challenges were giving 4 times more XP than they should have,
right?
And
that's the only way that you could do the season pass. You can't just play a match. You have to do challenges. So they were giving 4 times less.
So the cynic in me wants to say no. Obviously, that's a lie.
Because it's also an EA game.
Right. Yeah, the cynic in me really wants to say that they are doing that to make more money.
And they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and the player base is unhappy.
Again, it comes back to communication. Why didn't they say 3 months ago, hey guys, this challenge is rewarding too much XP. We're going to be changing it soon. Here's your heads up.
Yeah.
Because my guess is that they just changed it, right?
Yeah, it was. For people who are wondering, this was like 6 months ago. It was one of the big Battle Pass challenge changes. They did a big change across the board, and that was what it did. They were like, "We're changing the Battle Pass and how you gain XP." That's all they said. Like a day before it launched, it came out. And it was like, "Holy cow! I'm never getting to level 5."
Yeah,
it's like that.
I don't know. I generally think that any corporation's going to try to milk as much money as they can out of their consumers. So it's hard for me not to argue that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which also applies to other games. So
it's the problem I think we're running into is the direction that they went 6 months ago felt very app game focused, where like I play a game called Strike Force. And the way that their battle pass works is every day you log on, you do everything that they tell you to do, you can gain 1 battle pass rank. And if you would miss no more than 10 days in a course of a season, you'll be okay. But if you miss more than 10, you know what I mean? Like it felt like it was one of those like super tight battle passes.
You should be able to step away from a game.
Right.
But
well, and I agree with you.
I guess that's the issue is that for live service games like we play, the moneymaker isn't the expansions. It's never going to be the expansions. You're not going to make the same amount of money selling $60 or $40 some type of expansion and new content. You're not going to make the same amount of money as you will selling a skin for $10, selling a season pass for $2 a level. That's where the money's coming from. So the question, I guess, comes down to, do you like the game enough that you're willing to accept that they're trying to nickel and dime you so that they can keep creating the game? Because if they can't make money off of the expansion, how are they supposed to stay in business and keep creating the game?
Right, and I think that's the fine line we're on. Avengers is a great example of the nickel and diming aspect, where they're like, everything's free, but look at all the costumes, and look, you know what I mean? They're trying to nickel and dime you because they're going to give you the content for free. But how do you think that content gets made? I hate people that argue all the time, like everything should just be given to me. Like we could have an entire podcast on the amount of people that are freaking out because a game that came out 4 years ago on PS4 is getting a PS5 upgrade, and they're like, that should be free. No, you could play it on PS. That's a whole different discussion, I know. But there's like an entitled audience where they're like, well, you're re-releasing my game on a new system. I bought it once already. I don't know if you're tracking that argument.
Well, but the issue is that if I bought a PS2 version of Kingdom Hearts and wanted to throw it in my... Well, can you do that for PS3? I know from PS1 to PS2, you could take a PS1 disc and you could put it in your PS2 and play it.
PS4 to PS5 does the same thing. So a lot of people are trying to argue that because they bought the PS4 version, the PS5 one should be free.
So can I download my PS4 version of that game and play it on my PS5?
Yeah.
Then, yeah, you should have to pay for the PS5 version.
And I get the argument for games that are coming out right now during that launch, but with like some of these games are getting re-released now. Like there's a lot of re-releasing happening right now, and people are arguing. But this is a whole different debate. What I'm saying is, it's just that entitlement, the entitlement aspect of everything should be handed to me because I invested once or twice, you know. And so, okay, I think we've come to a conclusion about toxic positivity and toxic negativity and what that line is. And I agree. I think that line definitively is if you can't even see the other point of view anymore. You're just forcing yourself to play a game negatively or positively, and you don't understand that there are other points of views, and your attitude is like, well, if you don't agree with me, get the hell out. You know? Right. When I was super negative about Destiny and played it with you, at no point did you tell me to go away. You kept inviting me back. And I feel like I was probably toxically negative at that point, but you were just like, whatever, my buddy's shooting stuff with me.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. If I like the game and you don't, but we still get to hang out, I mean, hey, that's what it is. I'm not a huge fan of Sea of Thieves. I do enjoy the time, but like I'll go play that with you whenever.
When I'm in a weird mood to be a pirate. Yeah!
I'm like, okay, let's go be a pirate. I'll go get my whiskey and we'll drink. My whiskey and my rum, and we'll drink and burn boats down and chase ghosts and whatever.
You just planned out our Friday night for us. I'll see you Friday on the sloop.
Yarg.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today for this quick discussion about toxic positivity and toxic negativity. Let us know in the comments down below what you think, though. Where is that line? What do you think? Do you think that that is not toxically positive to just always look on the positive side of a video game? On the flip side, what do you think about toxic negative? What's that line where you're like, I just won't hang out with this person anymore? I've got friends who literally go, I don't play League with this person because they're toxic. I'm like, so what's that line? Where I can get on League and rant and rave and be mad. I mean, anyway, guys, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time right here at Absolutely PlayStation and Steam Gamers.